Hello, friends. Welcome back to Sorry What. Your favorite storyteller is back to bring you today's story. Make sure you're comfortable, grab your favorite drink, and let us begin. The Cheater's Request. Janet's been a great wife since we married 5 years ago. Our sex life has been amazing and our marriage has been strong. And up until that one moment in time, she's never given me a reason to be jealous or believe that she's been unfaithful. That's why I was flabbergasted by her request to go out with the EVP of her company. Since starting with Global Connections 3 years ago, she's worked her way up to marketing manager at this international entertainment firm. As you can imagine, she meets all types of people and attends a great number of events, conferences, consulting, and marketing meetings. Some of their customers are very well known, such as the New York Knicks, the Chicago Bears, and the New England Patriots. Her high energy and bubbly personality combined with her athletic body, perky melons, blonde hair, blue eyes, and intelligence made her a perfect fit for this company. She kept me updated with her plans, her successes, and her day-to-day activities, and I was happy to listen and proud of her success. She has the ambition to become VP of Marketing, and is working hard towards that goal. Global Connection is a British-owned organization with offices worldwide, and her manager, Ian Wilsey, is the EVP of Marketing. A self-made man in his early 50s, married 3 times with 9 children and 3 with his current wife. I couldn't help thinking that it's a good thing he makes a big paycheck to support his philandering and divorces when she told me about her boss. Janet brought up Ian one evening as she told me about her day, but only in a business setting, nothing personal. She explained that he was coming to the US for 2 months, and it would give her a chance to show him how valuable she was to the company, and let him know she was interested in moving up in the organization. That's my girl, motivated and focused on her future. We just started talking about children, and I asked her if getting the promotion would impact our time frame for growing our family. She said that she wanted to get a feel for her position in the company while Ian was here, and then she would let me know if we should start the family or delay our plans for a year. I was fine with either way, as we were still in our 20s and not in a rush for children, but we wanted 2, a boy and a girl. We spent many nights and hours picking out names and which universities they would be going to when they were older. We were in love and looking forward to raising our future children. A week after Ian's arrival, I stopped by Janet's office to surprise her for lunch. When I went to her office, I saw Ian and my wife standing a little too close as she was giggling and flirting. She quickly stopped and walked away from him when she heard me say hello. Janet introduced me to Ian, and that's when I swear that I saw a smirk on his face. Ian, this is my husband Brian. Brian, this is Ian, the executive vice president from our corporate office. You remember, I told you he was visiting for a short stay. Then I saw it again. The clocky smirk as he spoke. Well, hello. So, you're the little husband. Nice to meet you, but you'll have to excuse me, I'm late for a meeting, and quickly left the office, avoiding any small talk. I considered his greeting incredibly rude, especially for someone in his position. Janet, what the duck was that about, and why were you hanging on him and giggling? I wasn't laughing and had the urge to knock that stupid smirk off his face, but he was gone before I could do anything. She knew I was upset with the way we just met, and tried to calm me down. Calm down, sweetheart, that's just Ian and it was a little harmless flirting, and besides he is old enough to be my dad. Look, all the girls swoon over him. He thinks he's a ladies' man with his charming British accent and likes to flirt, and we all know he's just a clocky jerk, but he's the boss. Anyway, he's a family man and nothing to worry about. It's just a little flirting with the girls. A bit of fun, he calls it. Well, I don't like it. And he has the balls to call me the little husband. And why the hell were you flirting back with him? Oh Brian, stop acting jealous. Ian's the third in charge of the entire company, and I need to be nice to him. Like I said, he thinks he's a ladies' man, and that's just the way British men are. Well, I don't like it. Relax, he's gone in 2 months. Things were tense for a few days at home after that, and Janet was careful not to bring up his name or upset me more than I already was. Brian's moment of truth. Then, on a Wednesday night, a week after meeting Ian at the office, Janet opened up a casual conversation over dinner. Honey, would it be okay if I went out to dinner with Ian, you know, my boss from work? I tensed up a little as it took me a moment to understand her question and answered with a question. Do you mean like a business meeting thing? Well, no. More like a one-time date, before he goes back to London. I immediately felt my stomach tighten up and my heart beating faster. I sat there quietly for a long moment before replying. I see. This is the same Ian that had been flirting with you, and made fun of me in your office. The so-called family man, married with a total of 9 children with 3 different wives. Well, yes. But he's turned out to be a very nice man. He wouldn't be here much longer, and I probably won't see him again when he goes back to London, so I thought one date would be okay. Like I said, he's married and has children. This would not be a romantic thing, just a little fun. One night away is all I'm asking for. It might even help my career. I mean, really, you go out of town on business all the time, one night away shouldn't be a big deal. Okay, so it's not just dinner, it's a date and you want to spend the entire night with him. Let me be clear, Janet, no ducking way will I allow you to go out with another man on a date, as long as we are married. Do you ducking understand? In fact, just knowing that you want to be with another man makes me want to rethink our marriage. She panicked when she saw my reaction. Oh God, no. You have it all wrong. I love you and you're my husband. Ian is just a one-time thing, and I'll be back the next day. Nothing changes between us and he'll be out of our lives forever. My God, it's just one night. I looked at her with rage in my eyes and just said, duck you. I'll have divorce papers in the next few days. I then stood, walked to my closet, packed a bag of clothes, and walked out. She continued to beg me to come back as I drove away from my once happy home. In less than 30 minutes my once happy marriage became a nuclear wasteland. The calls from Janet started immediately, followed by non-stop texts expressing her love and insisting that there would never be anyone else. In the next text, she tried to convince me that I was her loving husband, that this was all a misunderstanding, and that I needed to come back home. As I drove, I told myself that if she could be swayed so easily, our future as husband and wife was in jeopardy, and would require serious effort to restore, if that was even possible. I stayed away for 2 nights, ignored her calls, and took time off work, instructing them to tell her that I was out of town on a business trip. Janet. Ever since Ian arrived at the office, all the women in my workspace were buzzed about this powerful, handsome man with a captivating eye for the ladies. He was tall, well-built, and had a marvelous accent that was both seductive and hypnotic. From the moment we met, it was clear to everyone that he had eyes for me. The compliments, the private meetings, the lunch dates, and all the extra time he devoted to me, made the other women jealous. Every one of them would have jumped at the chance to be with Ian, married or not. The married women were even more vocal, encouraging me to go for it. Janet, he's asked you out several times. Every girl in the office would change places with you in a heartbeat. He's so handsome, and that accent makes us all wet when he talks to us. Take him up on his offer, and get yourself laid by this powerful man. You may never have another chance. Brian doesn't need to know, and he'll be going back to London, so no potential problems in the future. The office girls hounded me every day until one day, they finally convinced me to go for it. Deep down, I knew I could never go behind my husband's back, so I came up with the idea of asking Brian to let me go on one date. Just one time, and then everything would go back to normal. The girls assured me that Brian would understand and give me this one night. At least, that's what most of them told me. So, that night, when I told him, I was shocked by his anger and rage. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, and now he's gone. I can't believe he walked out like that. I never thought he would be this upset. In my distress, I called Gail, one of the girls at work. Gail and I, along with Janet, started at the company in the same department on the same day, 3 years ago, and have been inseparable since then. Sobbing into the phone I said, "Hello Gail, this is Janet. He's gone. He's left me." "Janet, what are you talking about?" I told Brian that I wanted to go to dinner with Ian, and he just left me. He just got up from the table, packed his bags and stormed out of the house. He even mentioned divorce, and now I'm afraid I've lost him. Nonsense. He's just angry. You've hurt his fragile male ego, but he'll be back. You haven't done anything yet and he knows it. He might be angry and pout for a few days, but he'll forgive you. We'll come up with another plan to get you and Ian together, trust me. I don't want that, I just want my husband. Janet, relax. Have a glass of wine. Get some rest. I'll see you at work tomorrow. Planning her betrayal progresses. Brian came home 2 days later and moved into the second bedroom. Gail was right. Brian was furious, far more than anyone could have anticipated. Although Brian loved Janet, he was ready to divorce her if she mentioned Ian's name just one more time. At the very least, marriage counseling seemed inevitable. Over the next week, Janet tried hard to earn Brian's forgiveness. After a week of seeing his attractive wife and having no sexual contact, Brian decided to set aside his anger. They had rough makeup sex, and Brian finally forgave Janet, but he gave her a stern warning. "Next time, I will not be coming back." Janet dodged a bullet and promised Brian she would never make that mistake again. She shared the entire story with the girls at work, confessing how she almost lost her husband over her foolish idea. However, the girls were now undeterred and came up with a foolproof plan to get Ian and Janet together. It became a group project, and the marketing team was determined to meet their self-imposed goal of arranging a rendezvous between Ian and Janet before he returned to London. One of the women, Marcia, proposed an idea that the team embraced, taking their scheme to the next level. Girls, we have a year-end dinner party coming up in 2 weeks at the Hyatt. I know for a fact that they plan to have a nice dinner for the team, along with a band and some dancing. This year they want the spouses to attend, and when I heard that I had a brainstorm. You know, my husband, Clark, is a pharmaceutical sales rep with a specialty in anesthesiology. Well, his company came up with a new formula of midazolam. For those of you that don't know what it is, I'll explain. Midazolam is a drug they give to patients to sedate them before surgery. It knocks them out in seconds and with the side effect of short-term amnesia. They remember nothing from that point forward until they wake up. Now, midazolam is given intravenously, but the new drug, S2-mid, is given in a pill or liquid form. Well, hubby's new hottest product is S2-mid, and he's been selling it in large quantities and works like magic, better than the original formula. Well, how does that help us? Gail asked as Janet listened with a puzzled expression. Gail, I'm glad you asked. Since they're Schedule 2 drugs, Clark keeps his samples locked away in his car. He's careful to keep them safe and out of reach. However, he sometimes takes my little Mustang Cobra out for a fun ride. When he's gone, I can easily take his key and take a few pills or an ounce of the liquid, and nobody will ever know. Okay Marcia, that's interesting, but what's your plan? Girls, you're going to love this. At the party, when everyone is mingling, I'll spike a drink and hand it to Brian. I know from previous times out with him that he can't resist a Crown Royal, so I'll casually have 2 drinks in my hand and hand one to Brian when I see he needs a drink. It might take from 5 to 20 minutes to work depending on how much he drinks, but he'll get sleepy, dizzy, and then finally pass out on one of the chairs that we will guide him to. Then, we'll tell everyone Brian wasn't feeling well, and then we'll bring him up to your hotel room and put him to bed. He'll be out for at least 4 hours, and most likely won't wake up until morning. Turning to Janet, Marcia continued, when we take him to his room, it will be your cue to go with Ian. Go up to his room and duck his brains out for a few hours. We'll cover for you here and tell everyone that you went up to be with Brian. After a few hours of ducking Ian's brains out, you make your way back to your room, take a shower, clean up, and then cuddle into Brian with thoughts of Ian's monster deck. I bet you'll have the best night of your life. Girls, I can't do that to Brian. Do you want me to drug my husband so that I can duck Ian? Do you know how crazy that sounds? Brian would kill me if he even found out we were even considering this. Of course I know it would be a thrill and would help my chances for promotion, but if I got caught Brian would divorce me. Yeah, about as crazy as you not getting Ian's big clock inside you. Come on, it's safe and he'll never have any clue about what happened. Ian will be indebted to you, and your promotion will be in the bag. The last thing Brian will remember is you asking him if he's okay and that you love him. Then when he wakes up in your arms, you'll have wonderful memories of your night with Ian. And you better share everything with all of us, sister. I don't know. It's crazy. Look, let me think about it. Things at home have gotten better and Brian isn't mad anymore. I'll tell him about the party tonight and see how he reacts. Janet seals her fate. Later in bed, Janet said, Brain, we're having our annual dinner in 2 weeks, and spouses are invited. You'll need to get your tux cleaned and pressed, as it will be a formal dinner. We haven't been out dancing in a while, and it will be fun. As much as I hate these events, I'll do this for you because I know it's important to you. I thanked him with an enthusiastic blue job that night. He went to sleep a happy and satisfied husband that night. However, my sexual appetite had peaked, and suddenly I was excited about a one-time fling with Ian to try something I would have never considered before. I decided at that moment to put the plan into action and texted Marcia. I'm in. Can you get the drug? The text came back a minute later, leave it to me, no problem. Janet was loving all the sex with Brian, and was excited about doing it once with Ian. The thrill of stepping out just once, and never again, kept her on edge and constantly excited. She wasn't sure if it was the allure of doing something naughty or the idea of spending a night with her boss, but either way, she had committed to the plan. She promised herself it was a one-time thing, and that Brian would never know. No harm, no foul. Right. Over the next week, Brian noticed Janet was much more active on her cell phone, texting her friends more often. He knew the party was coming up and had a nagging feeling that something was amiss. A few nights later, when Janet was sound asleep, Brian retrieved her phone, entered her password and opened her text messages. For the next hour, he read in horror about what they had planned for that night, including the drug, the timing to slip it into his drink, how long to wait, and how to get the key to his room to drop him off. He learned everything. Who was getting the drug, who was going to give him the drink, and worst of all, how Ian was in on the plan, and was going to take his wife to his room while Brian was unconscious. Then, after they finished their playtime, Janet would then leave Ian and come back to their hotel room, freshly ducked, and pretend everything was right with the world, as Brian would still be unconscious and unaware from the drug still in his system. That was all he needed to know. After uploading all the text messages to the cloud, he put her phone back and tried to get back to sleep. It wasn't easy. He was horrified to learn that the woman he loved was plotting and planning to drug and betray him all in the same night. This was war, and he was going to be prepared. They would all pay for their treachery. Brian continued to act as the loving husband, monitoring her messages and getting updates on their plan up until the day of the party. During this time, he called his Uncle Bob, his godfather, and a retired cop. Brian told him what was going on, and together they came up with their plan. With some good timing and a little acting skill, they could turn the tables on the entire team of jackals. The clandestine group they put together included Uncle Bob's old partner from the force, Ellie Johnson. Ellie joined two of Brian's army buddies, Craig Marks and Jimmy Jones, to assist with their plan. Ellie would be in charge of diverting the drink and watching over Brian at the party. Uncle Bob, Craig, and Jimmy would handle the heavy work to come later in the evening. Brian recalls the work event. As I expected, Janet wore a very revealing low-cut dress, black seamed stockings, and very high heels. Her makeup and hair were immaculate, and it hurt knowing the reason she was dressing this way wasn't for me. Knowing it was another man was a hurtful act, one that I would never forgive. You look extra sexy tonight, darling. Was this all for me? Of course, honey, I want you to show off your sexy wife and make you proud. I almost choked hearing her lie to me so easily. The witch was about to drug me and duck another man right under my nose. She didn't care that I would be humiliated in front of every one of her coworkers, each one knowing full well what she was up to. No, all she cared about was being with this guy, and I still could not understand why she would risk everything for a one-time affair. Like my dear old dad once told me, women just can't understand normal thinking. We made it inside the party and were quickly surrounded by Janet's girlfriends. They dragged her over to a circle where Ian was holding court. I followed behind, scanning the room to see if Bob's former partner from the force, Ellie, was nearby. We had planned for Ellie to help mix up the drinks to save me from the drugged one. I spotted her off to the side as I approached the circle around Ian. Unfortunately, I couldn't stand next to Janet because she was now beside Ian, who had his arm around her waist, laughing and telling jokes. My instinct was to grab her and take her away from him, but that would have ruined our plans. So, I just observed her actions, which hurt like hell. I felt my stomach turn and bile rise in my throat as my anger grew. She was so enamored with Ian and gave him her full attention. At that moment I didn't exist in her world. I stood next to some other guy and watched Ian perform for the crowd of onlookers. That's when Ian saw me and decided to have some fun at my expense. Well, look who's here, the accountant. Welcome, little man, he said with an evil smirk. That's when Janet saw my face and suddenly realized she was being held tightly by Ian, and not her husband, as he continued. You know, I have a few jokes you'll enjoy, Brian. What do accountants use for birth control? Their personality. Everyone looked at me and laughed, including Janet, which I admit, hurt my ego. He continued to humiliate me in front of the entire staff, as my wife did nothing to stop him. It hurt like hell, but I had to keep my cool and let our plan play out. Asshole was having fun now. Did you like that one, Brian? His personality, you know, accountants are dull and boring. He then went on with a dozen more accountant jokes, and each time everyone, including my wife, just looked over at me and laughed. Your wife has a lovely pair of W2s. My wife thought it was so funny. Oh, baby, let me withhold you. The girls there just giggled. Technically, having sex with an accountant is a charitable gift. Janet was laughing even harder now, as my humiliation became overwhelming. In Brian's office, IRS. Stands for I'm really sexy. My anger grew. If I help you screw Uncle Sam, can I be next? I had enough. That was it, I had enough humiliation for a lifetime. I turned and walked away as he continued hurling jokes my way. Laughing, Ian called out as I was leaving, Brian, come back, little man. I was only joking. Rage overcame me as I walked away. Okay, Ian was a few inches taller than me, but keep in mind I am not a little man at 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. I could have broken the limey braid in half in 2 seconds if I had wanted to. Surely Janet knew this, but at that moment I wasn't sure. The only thing I was sure about was that these morons had to suffer and pay the price for the disrespect they intentionally showered upon me. What the duck was Janet thinking? Was she under his spell? Did she just think I would accept her disrespect? As I was leaving, I suddenly felt an arm wrap around my waist, and to my surprise it was Janet. Honey, he was joking, come back with me. I shot her an angry glare and said, are you ducking crazy? You stand there with his arm around your waist, and laugh at me along with everyone else, while he openly humiliates your husband, and you want me to go back there? What type of a loving wife does that? I've never been so humiliated in my entire life. Hell, I earn more as an accountant than every one of those assholes, and you just went along with him, as if I was a joke. Just go away, Janet. Go back to that loudmouth asshole. You two deserve each other. Brian, I'm so sorry. Please don't be mad. Let's sit and talk at our table for a few minutes. We did make it to our table and I saw Ali a few yards away watching the action. Janet continued to pay attention to just me and tried to calm me down, and after the second drink, I was a little less angry. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ian walking over to our table. He had a stupid smirk on his face and reached out to shake my hand. No hard feelings, old chap. Duck off, asshole, I said, surprising everyone at the table. Shocked by my display of anger, Janet said, Brian, that's my boss. Please don't speak to him like that. That's when the giant weasel had the audacity to ask my wife for a dance. Janet, it's okay, I hurt the little guy's feelings. Would you care to dance? She gave me an angry look after I told her boss to duck off, took his hand, and went onto the dance floor. 3 dances later my drink was empty, and that's when Gail and Marcia strolled over to my table and sat with me. I noticed 2 drinks in Marcia's hand and knew it was showtime. Ellie saw everything and went into action as the girls tried to calm me down. Brian, Ian has a British sense of humor. Don't take it so personally. Janet loves you, and she's just trying to impress her boss. Here, I brought over your favorite drink, the Crown Royal on the rocks. I played it up as best I could, and I saw the girls panic when I said, I don't know, I've already had too much to drink. Maybe I should just leave Janet here and go home. They both yelled for me to stay when I stood up to leave. It was perfect timing as I turned away from the table with the drink in my hand, as Ellie passed and seamlessly swapped drinks without the girls noticing. I then sat back down and started drinking the watered-down glass of Crown Ellie had prepared. Ellie kept the glass as evidence of what would be needed later. Perhaps you're both right. I'll just be a wimp accountant, let her flirt with her boss, sit here, and let everyone know that I'm just a stupid cluck, I sat downing the entire drink. The look on Marcia's face was priceless. She never expected me to finish the entire drink, let alone gulp it all at once. When I finished the drink, the girls said they needed to get back to their husbands. Now it was acting time and I sat alone at the table as Ian and Janet continued to dance. My acting skills were impressive that evening as I sank down into the chair and started acting like I was nodding off. I also continued to watch my wife and her boss get cozy and was amazed at how much she was openly flirting. A short time later I laid my head down on the table and pretended to be asleep. I heard the girls come over along with Janet trying to wake me up. Janet got close to my ear and said, Darling, are you okay? Brian, wake up baby. I opened my eyes to see my beautiful cheating wife in the process of betraying me and telling me she loved me. I closed my eyes and I knew what was coming next. That's when Gail and Marcia stood me up and walked me out of the ballroom and up to my hotel room. In the meantime, Ian and Janet snuck out a side door as everyone was watching the scene I was making. When we got to my hotel room, I heard my phone beep indicating a text message, and I knew our plan was in motion. The girls got me to the bed and took off my clothes. I smiled when I heard a loud gasp when they saw my very large clock. I heard Gail inhale when she saw how big my clock was, even not being erect. Holy sheep. Janet never said he was hung like this. I don't think Ian's in the same class as Brian. Duck, if he leaves Janet, I want to crack at that thing. I'd love to get that inside me. What the hell was Janet thinking, cheating on this guy, but I guess we had something to do with that. Shut up Gail, and let's get out of here. When the door closed, I got up, laughed at their comments, got dressed, and opened my phone. The text message read, Room 1722 at 10:45. That gave me 15 minutes to get to the room to meet Bob, Jimmy, and Craig. I took a piss, washed my face, took out my knuckle dusters, and headed out the door. At 10:45, the 4 of us were in front of room 1722, just 30 minutes after the cheating couple entered the room. Uncle Bob's job was to get us into the room and then disappear. We didn't want him involved in what was to come next. Bob gave a commanding knock on the door. Ian's voice came from behind the door. Who is it? This is Sergeant Connor of the NYPD. Please open the door, we have an emergency. Uncle Bob held his old shield up to the peephole, and then we heard the door unlock and open about 6 inches. Uncle Bob turned and walked away without any first-hand knowledge of what was coming next, which was how we wanted things to go. My army buddies, Jimmy and Craig, pushed their way in taking a naked Ian by the arms and pinning him against the wall. I walked in with my cell phone videoing the room, my naked wife Janet on the bed, and my nemesis, Ian, against the wall. The look of shock on Janet's face, seeing me awake and in front of her, was one of horror. I was the last person on earth she expected to see again until morning. My face must have looked contorted and angry from her expression as I spoke. You cheated on me for that, I said, pointing to her lover's skinny deck. You threw our marriage away for this asshole, drugged me, and lied to me. You really ducked up, Janet. Both of you picked the wrong guy to betray and Duckwood. I then walked over to Ian. I smiled when I saw the fear in his eyes conspicuously put on my knuckle dusters as my friends held him in place. What's wrong, Ian? No snarky comments or one of your stupid smirks. There was no answer from the big man, just his begging for forgiveness. After the first "I'm sorry" passed his lips, I pounded him senseless. I had no intention of leaving any permanent damage until my last blow, which shattered his big nose. Blood shot out everywhere as he collapsed onto the floor in a semi-conscious state, crying like a 5-year-old girl. Turning to Janet, I said, "I'll probably go to jail for that, but right now I don't give a sheep. I'm sure you'll testify for your lover because he's all you have now, slut." "Yes, Janet, I've known about your plans to drug me, lie to me, deceive me, and then duck this asshole." Looking down at the cum dripping out of her kitty, "You even ducked him while I was drugged out of my mind in our hotel room downstairs, not even caring about the possible side effects of it. On top of that, you were going to come back to me and pretend to be my loving wife, and tell me how much you loved me, that I passed out at the party, and how you and the girls took care of me all night. Well, my plan is much simpler." As tears streamed down her face, I continued, "First of all, you will not come home until tomorrow afternoon. You will not call or text me. Tomorrow morning, you will be served divorce papers here at the hotel. The courier is instructed to wait for you to sign them, and he will notarize your signature. I'm not being fair in this divorce. You will get the house with about $80K in equity, but I'm keeping all our savings and retirement money. I've already withdrawn all the money from our accounts and cancelled your credit cards, so don't bother checking your balance. The terms of the divorce state that you will agree to no support from me, and we will go our separate ways. And God willing, I'll never see your treacherous, cheating peach again. Your car is paid for, so you can keep that, but all the bills, insurance, gas, electricity, and mortgage payments are on you. Good luck with that. As for the asshole here, I'll be sending these videos of you and him naked to his wife, and I believe this will be marriage number 4 for your lover. You have some catching up to do, slut. But I'm sure you'll duck enough guys to get there soon enough. Oh, and one final note. If you sign the divorce papers as presented tomorrow morning, we can part ways quietly, and no one will know about your slutty ways. If you don't sign, I'll send the video to your mom and dad, and explain why I'm leaving you. I'll also ensure that both of you are fired from work and ruin your reputation in this business. We both know how important your career is to you. I don't want to do that, so just sign the papers by 9 AM tomorrow, or your life as you know it is over. My things will be gone from the house, and anything of mine left behind, you can throw out or donate to charity." Openly sobbing, Janet tried to speak. "Baby, please talk to me. Don't do this. You know I just wanted this one time with him. I don't love or want him, it was just supposed to be a thrill, something to help me get my promotion. He was going back to London next week, and I'd never see him again. Why couldn't you understand? I didn't need any more humiliation and just ignored her ridiculous words. I told Craig and Jimmy to go home. Guys, you can leave. You were never here. I'll take the rap if this goes down." After they left, I looked at my wife and spoke in a low voice. "Janet, I loved you. But what you've done is unforgivable. You know how I felt when you brought this up the first time, but you decided to go behind my back and do it anyway. You also involved other people, conspired against me, humiliated me, and drugged me. Hell, you even kidnapped me so that you can duck this loser. Well, you almost got away with it. Please, Brian, you can't divorce me. You know I love you and I don't want anyone else. Sweetheart, give me a chance to prove it to you. This is nothing to me, it was only going to be this one time. He's nothing compared to you, and I realize now how stupid I was. Please, baby, don't do this." "Janet, this would be funny if it wasn't so ridiculous. You're laying naked in Ian's bed with his cum leaking out of that nasty kitty, as you tell me you love me, and we can't get divorced. You know, this video will be entertaining to watch again. You're nothing but a slut, a corporate whore. I'll never touch you again, because now you're nothing but damaged goods. In fact, after tonight I don't plan on ever seeing you again." After an awkward moment of silence, Brian continued, "Janet, the time for talking is over. When you conspired with your colleagues to drug and cuckold me, you ended our marriage and everything we've worked for. Do you remember our future children that we planned all this time? Emily and Jason. Well, because of you, they will never be born. Our life together is now history, and nothing but a sad memory. So, Janet, tell me, was the ducking you got from this asshole worth it? I hope it was because you gave our future up for this small duck loser. Nice work, now you can have him because this is the last time we will be together." Brian left the room as she collapsed onto the bed. Everything she had planned had burned to the ground. The girl's devious plan didn't work, and her one-time selfish act backfired, leaving her with a life without the man she loved, and she did love Brian. As she cried into the pillow, she couldn't understand why she had allowed this to happen. She started yelling out to nobody in particular, delirious and broken. With Ian on the floor coming out of his stupor, Janet cried out, "But Brian, the girls said you would forgive me because you love me, and it was just going to be this one time. Sex, just some ducking sex with Ian. Can't you understand and forgive me? I'll make it up to you and never do it again. Please don't leave me, please, I love you." But Brian was already gone. The damage was done, and it was time for her to face a future without her husband, the man she claimed to love. Epilogue. Gail, Marcia, Ian, and Janet were all arrested and faced multiple felony charges, including conspiracy, kidnapping, possession of narcotics, and assault by drugging. Gail received a 2-year sentence for conspiracy, Marcia was given 10 years for conspiracy, possession, and assault, and Ian received 2 years for conspiracy. The kidnapping charges were dropped. Janet also received 2 years for conspiracy. Naturally, Janet, Marcia, and Gail lost their jobs, and the felonies ruined their careers. Upon their release as convicted felons, the girls had to take jobs once considered demeaning and beneath them. Marcia's husband, Clark, lost his job due to the scandal, and was unable to find a similar position. His career was sideswiped by his wife's desire to live out a fantasy through Janet. He divorced Marcia while she was serving her sentence. Gail's husband also divorced her and lost the love of her 2 children who never came to visit. During this fiasco, Ian pressed charges against Brian for the beating and a badly broken nose. However, Brian was found not guilty after the jury heard the entire case. Ian's wife divorced him, and he lost his job due to the felony and the sexual harassment in the workplace. Janet attempted to recoup damages from Ian for sexual harassment in a civil trial, but by the time she was out of prison, Ian was divorced and penniless. He received no severance or referrals from his company upon his release from prison. The last anyone heard Ian was that he was now penniless, with no job prospects, and on probation for the next 5 years. The opulent lifestyle and freedom he once enjoyed were taken away overnight, all because of his hubris and overinflated ego. The big man was now humbled and cut down to size. Brian moved on and, true to his word, never saw Janet again. 5 years later he was remarried and was living with Gloria, a woman even more beautiful than Janet. Gloria was intelligent and loyal, promising never to cheat on Brian. However, once burned, twice shy. Brian insisted on a prenuptial agreement before they married despite her promises to be faithful. Trusting any woman would be difficult for Brian after his ordeal. Now, at the age of 31, Brian was happily married, and the couple was expecting their second child. Janet never got over losing Brian, the man she loved and never wanted to lose. Her depression persisted, and one night alone, as usual, Janet was in bed stalking Brian's Facebook page, as she had done every night since the divorce. Janet sobbed and broke down into a pool of tears when she saw the latest photo of Brian's son, Jason, and Emily, Brian's new daughter. She realized that Brian had gotten the family she had given up because of her one selfish act of betrayal. She never remarried or forgave herself for her stupidity and selfish act. That's the end of today's story, friends. Show some love by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Goodbye for now. Stay safe and I'll see you in the next video.